Hello and welcome to this short video presentation from Claritas. The aim of this presentation is to give you a sneak peek at one of the new applications that will be coming out in the upcoming release of v6.9, which should be available early January for all users who are on support. So on the seismic data tab, there is now a new button called Trace Header Math. So if I click on this, we can launch the application. So I select an input data set, and basically what this application will allow us to do is to apply trace header math functions on the fly to a data set and save the resulting header updates or new headers into that existing HDF5 data set without having to rewrite or run a job flow to achieve that. So what I'm going to do is load some expressions I've got saved out in a file. So this file listing.thm, open that. So basically you can see that I'm creating a whole bunch of new trace headers, which include a sequence number header for the sequence number of this data set in the acquisition, a new shot point header, which is a combination of sequence number and shot ID, gun cable header, which is basically creating unique 2D lines based on the shot point number and gun and cable numbers, a unique 2D shot point number by combining the gun cable and shot ID together, a 2D channel number, which is just a straight copy of the F-trace header, a 2D offset, which is basically taking the F-trace header, taking one away from it, multiplying by the group interval and adding a nominal near offset, and a sail line header. So once we've got these headers defined, and so the setup and how you compose a header math function in here is the same as our existing header math module, and you can use all of the standard NumPy, SciPy functions in there to create a header as you might want at will. So for example, I can create a max inline header, which would equal max of the inline within a shot record. We have an evaluate button, so you can check and make sure that your functions that you're defining work correctly, and so it tells me that they're fine. I can then press on the save header and it will basically go away and apply all these header updates to the seismic trace. So if I click on that, it'll basically go through and apply these header math functions to all the shot records in this data set. As I showed you earlier, you can load expressions. So if you've got a set of pre-computed, pre-calculated header math expressions that you want to use, you can basically pull those in and load them in from whatever data directory you've got those in. Once you create a bunch, you can also save those expressions out into a directory, either within the project or somewhere that you'll know you'll pick it up and use multiple times. So the second row of buttons in the Griffon application, or the trace header math application, allows us to QC the new trace headers that we're creating or the trace headers we're updating. So the first one, if I click on the list header details button, basically launches an additional window that basically shows you the trace header name that's being used or created, the index within the trace header array that header exists, the data type, so i.e. 64-bit integer or unsigned 32-bit integer, the minimum maximum trace value, and then whether it's a new or used trace header. Any of these columns are sortable on, so you can click on sort on them, and that gives you that sort of first look to make sure that your trace headers are looking sensible. And what you would expect. Right, and also we have the list header application window that will again launches to the side of the Griffon application. And basically what this does is displays approximately the first 400 traces or so from the data set with basically the new headers or the updated headers showing you what's being written into those trace headers. So again, that allows you to QC and look and make sure that the values being written out are those that you expect to see. And then finally, along here, we have the ability to launch the SV Seismic Viewer by clicking on the View Seismic button. Now, when the SV application is launched, you'll notice that it's come up with a whole bunch of predefined header overlays, and these are for your new trace headers that you're creating or updating. So the blue one is the 2D channel number. The black one is our 2D offset. Sort of olive green is our max inline number. Then we have our sequence number and our gun cable number up there. And then further down we have our sail line number and our new shot point and numbers, etc. So again, it makes QCing the data once you're applying your header math functions a little simpler and easier. Get a good understanding of what's going on. Certainly saves having to run a job flow, then QC and look at the results of your header math expression. So it basically makes formulating and updating and working through and getting to the point where you're happy with the header math expression a lot simpler and interactive. And then once you've got those header math expressions, you can either load your data sets in and apply the same one over and over within Griffon, or you could take that header math expression you've created as a file and read it into a job flow with the header math app module and run it as a production job flow in your production runs for your seismic data if you're running either multiple 2D lines or part of a larger 3D volume. So this capability will be available for users who are on support in the upcoming beta release that will be coming out this coming Friday, around about the 16th of November. And obviously will be available to users on support in the next stable release, which will be v6.9, which will come out probably in the new year, early January. Any questions, don't hesitate to contact claritas.support@gns.cri.nz. Thank you for your time and goodbye.